You are 12 years old, living in a small rural village in Ming Dynasty, China. For a year is 1570. Your home is modest, clay walls, a thatched roof, packed earth floors. Your days overflow with tasks, helping your mother, carrying water, and sometimes playing in the dust near your family's weathered dwelling. Life is difficult but consistent. Then one afternoon, a lacquered carriage arrives from the capital. Its obsidian shine catches the summer sun. It doesn't belong here. A government official emerges, accompanied by attendants. He wears embroidered silk, his hands covered in gloves, his expression neutral. The villagers assemble, hushed and anxious. These visits seldom bring fortune. You're summoned forward. He doesn't request your name. Doesn't request your name. He examines your teeth, your complexion, your bearing, and particularly your feet. He speaks minimally. His eyes aren't cruel, but they're detached. This isn't a dialogue. It's an assessment. The official confers with your father. No bargaining occurs. A pouch of silver passes into your father's grasp. He doesn't meet your gaze as he accepts it. You aren't being sold into matrimony. You aren't going to a noble estate to labour. You are now imperial property, selected for the inner court. You're to be transported to the capital, Beijing, to enter the Imperial Harem. You don't completely comprehend what this signifies. Few girls do. What you understand is that your existence as a daughter has concluded. You're taken immediately. You're forbidden from gathering belongings. The journey commences by cart with other girls, most your age or somewhat older. None of you converse much. The guards riding alongside bear weapons. You don't know if they're present to safeguard you or to stop you from fleeing. After days of movement, you arrive in Beijing. The walls of the Forbidden City rise ahead, enormous, scarlet, and soundless. You're marched through towering gates, then transferred to court eunuchs. Their presence unsettles you. Their voices are shrill and affected, their expressions remote. They don't treat you harshly, but their detachment sends a message. You're here to be evaluated, not embraced. You're led to a chamber where physical examinations commence. It's methodical and frigid. You're disrobed along with the others and inspected again. Stature, complexion, foot dimensions, and physical balance are all measured. One girl is dismissed because of a birthmark on her back. Another is rejected due to a slight squint in her left eye. You're retained. Your small feet, though unbound, are viewed as promising. If they haven't yet been bound, they will be now. Footbinding isn't universal, but in aristocratic circles it's anticipated. Your feet are wrapped firmly, your toes folded beneath your soles. Bandages are applied with pressure. Bones fracture. The agony isn't fleeting, it becomes a daily existence. The philosophy is that diminutive arched feet signify elegance and submission. Beauty in this realm isn't about nature, it's about dominance. You'll spend the following year learning to walk anew. Your new residence isn't a chamber, but a structure, a section of the Forbidden City designated for junior concubines in preparation. You aren't yet regarded as a genuine consort. You're at this phase simply a prospect, a servant in standing, but under vigilant observation. You're introduced to fundamental court etiquette. You learn how to genuflect, how to serve tea, how to bow, how to walk without lifting your eyes, and how to attire yourself. You're taught how to address senior women, eunuchs, and imperial inspectors. Quietness is prized. Compliance is acknowledged. Errors are retained. You commence each day before daybreak. You're accountable for cleansing your quarters and tending to assign senior consorts. Some are compassionate, most aren't. You rapidly learn that the Forbidden City isn't a refuge, it's a political apparatus. Everyone is observing. Everyone is vying. You're given instruction in calligraphy, embroidery, music, and how to speak gently and deliberately, not to articulate yourself, but to serve and amuse. The objective isn't education, it's metamorphosis. You're being shaped into someone who may someday be called by the emperor. Whether that day arrives depends on your appearance, your conduct, and your capacity to avoid missteps. The senior concubines pay minimal attention to you, but their silence isn't security, it's separation. Their position depends on not being linked with the lower tiers. A few glance at you only to adjust your posture or reprimand an error. You learn swiftly that being unnoticed is safer than being seen. Whispers circulate among the younger girls, tales of former concubines who vanished. Some claim they were expelled. Others insist they were confined or executed for transgressing palace regulations. You don't know what's accurate. What you understand is that nobody mentions these women by name. The nourishment is simple but adequate. The sleeping quarters are communal with straw mats and mosquito netting. There are no comforts. Your body aches from the preparation and the perpetual pressure to present yourself properly. You're seldom alone, and you start to forget what tranquility felt like in the countryside. Here everything is organized, governed, and documented. You're informed that this is a distinction, that serving in the palace is an accolade, but the expressions of the elder women indicate otherwise. Few grin, fewer speak openly. As months elapse, you're no longer the newest. Other girls arrive, and now you observe them with the same silent wariness. You begin to grasp the hierarchy, how delicate it is, and how rapidly it can shift. At 13, you're still a youth. But inside the Forbidden City, childhood terminates with the closing of the gate. You're now part of the Imperial household, not a visitor, not even a servant. You're an asset, one of hundreds preserved and prepared for a singular possibility, the Emperor's notice. Whether it arrives will shape the trajectory of your life, and if it does, it will only unlock the door to a different set of perils. You're 13 now. 1 year has elapsed since you entered the Forbidden City. You no longer recoil when the gates seal behind you. The crimson walls, once looming and alien, now feel like permanent barriers. You've memorized every passage between your quarters and the inner courtyards. You've learned to move without sound, to speak only when addressed, and to maintain your gaze downward. Your standing is still inferior. You aren't yet a concubine of the Emperor, but you assist those who are. The Imperial Harem, or neating, is a rigid hierarchy of women separated by rank, preference, and power. At the summit are the Empress and senior consorts. At the foundation are the girls like you, the selected women, or Zunu, who are experiencing training and executing menial duties. You begin each morning before sunrise. You cleanse, dress in standard silk garments, and report to your designated station. Today, you're assigned with aiding a second-rank consort, a woman who has served the Emperor for over 10 years. She doesn't address you unless you commit a mistake. When you pour her tea too sluggishly, she taps the table twice. It's not a scolding, it's a caution. You adjust your pace immediately. You're prohibited from displaying emotion. A smile that appears too self-assured, a hesitation too prolonged, a glance too elevated. It all can be misconstrued. The women above you aren't kin. They aren't guides. They're adversaries, and they protect their positions with silent exactness. You learn to interpret tone, to detect subtle alterations in posture, to recognize when not to speak. These are survival abilities, not social ones. The regulations are never completely articulated. Some are documented. Never converse with a man unless commanded. Never depart your assigned quarters after dusk. Never defy a eunuch. But most regulations are unrecorded, enforced by tradition and retribution. You learn them through hardship. The girl in the bed adjacent to yours whispered back to a senior consort last week. She hasn't returned. No clarification was provided. You begin to comprehend that authority in the harem is fragile, but also absolute. The Emperor is distant, almost legendary. You've never glimpsed him, only heard of his preferences from the words of senior women and eunuchs. But everything in your existence revolves around the possibility of him noticing you. Being summoned to his presence is uncommon. Being invited back a second time is rarer still. Yet it's the only path upward. The competition for that opportunity is silent, but constant. Girls adjust their posture when a senior eunuch walks by. They rehearse fan gestures in private. Some exchange intelligence in whispers. Who is favoured this week? Who descended from grace? Who wept before the Emperor's mother? Even minor transgressions can be career-ending. One afternoon, a girl from your group spills a droplet of broth during service. She's removed and returned hours later, her knuckles swollen. Bamboo rods are utilised as correction. Another girl is accused of conversing with a guard too extensively. She's removed permanently. The guards, like the eunuchs, aren't allies. The harem isn't a place of protection. It's a controlled environment where any violation is deemed deliberate defiance. You hear rumours passed cautiously in hushed tones. A senior concubine once spilled wine on a nobleman. She was dismissed from court and never heard from again. Another was discovered sending correspondence to her family, which is strictly prohibited without authorization. She was reportedly confined to a sealed chamber for months. Whether all these accounts are true doesn't matter. They shape your understanding. The palace isn't governed by fairness, but by order. Your physical training persists. You practice walking on bound feet, which still throb daily. The bones are permanently modified, and the pain never fully departs. But you've learned to smile through it. Pain is private. Visible suffering is a sign of frailty. By now, you've learned that favour isn't earned by merit, but by perception. You're taught how to carry yourself, how to hold a fan, how to speak in metaphors. Intelligence is valuable only when it can be concealed as grace. You've begun to adjust your expressions, your gestures, even your tone, not out of vanity, but out of necessity. This isn't performance, it's self-preservation. When you're not serving, you're being monitored. Eunuchs are everywhere. They manage your schedules, report your behaviour, and enforce discipline. While technically powerless outside the palace within it, they're the gatekeepers. They determine who is promoted and who is promoted and who is silenced. You've learned never to challenge them. You keep your head lowered and your body moving. Each day repeats with small variations. Scrubbing floors, pouring tea, fetching silk garments, attending ceremonial drills. Always in silence, always with care. One mistake could end your progress, or worse, your life. But amid the rigidity, you begin to understand the subtle codes of power. A well-timed bow, a favour returned discreetly, a respectful nod to a consort in passing. You begin to map the informal networks, the women who have influence, the eunuchs who respond kindly to gifts of embroidery or ink, the servants who speak too much. These observations will become more important than any official instruction. After one full year in the harem, you're now tolerated, not favoured, not trusted, but no longer invisible. You're beginning to exist within the structure, which is more than most girls can claim. Many are gone dismissed for illness, rebellion, or irrelevance. You remain. Still, you aren't safe, you aren't secure. You're simply present in a world that watches constantly, remembers everything, and forgives almost nothing. You don't know if the Emperor will ever summon you. You don't know if you'll survive long enough to rise in rank. What you do know is that survival requires silence, vigilance, and the ability to disappear in plain sight. You're 13 years old, but already shaped by a system that expects you to perform perfection without flaw, obedience without thought, and ambition without visible desire. You live in one of the wealthiest palaces in the world, and yet you own nothing, not your time, not your time, not your voice, not even your future. This is life inside the Imperial Harem. You're 16 now. 3 years have passed since you entered the Forbidden City. You have endured, many have not. The corridors are quieter than when you first arrived, but the silence is misleading. Beneath the polished floors and painted walls, tension circulates like stale air. You're still a concubine in training, unwed, uncompensated, and largely overlooked. But your place in the harem is more established than it was. You know the rhythms now. You know how to move without being watched and how to be noticed without speaking. Then one evening, everything transforms. You're summoned. The message is concise and direct, delivered by a eunuch whose expression reveals nothing. You're to attend the Emperor that night. No explanation, no guarantee of return. Just an instruction. The other women don't speak to you as you prepare. No one offers counsel. You bathe, dress in robes selected by the senior attendants, and are powdered by servants who remain silent as they work. You're carried to the Imperial chambers in a curtained sedan. Your bound feet, wrapped tightly, are useless for walking. The chamber doors close behind you. No one speaks of what happens inside. What follows is not recorded, not discussed, and not optional. You emerge the next morning. The attendants avoid your gaze. From that moment, everything changes. Weeks later, a court physician confirms what you suspected. You're pregnant. The news is delivered quietly, but word spreads swiftly. Pregnancy in the Imperial Harem is both a potential elevation and a profound threat. Bearing a child, especially a son, can raise you to the rank of concubine of record, even consort, but it also draws attention, the kind that turns allies into competitors and rivals into enemies. You're assigned improved quarters, you're given new robes, better meals, and a personal attendant. Your name begins to appear on formal rosters. The eunuchs speak to you more carefully now, but the women above you take notice. They begin to observe you more closely. Their silence shifts into calculation. Within weeks, the accusations begin. One senior consort hints that you bribed the physician, Sasay. Another accuses you of poisoning her tea. The emperor's mother, the empress dowager, the highest-ranking woman in the harem, summons you. Her power is unmatched, even by the emperor himself. She examines you without emotion. Her questions are precise and cold. Who have you spoken to? What have you eaten? Who attends your quarters? She says nothing of the accusations, but her gaze lingers too long. You're returned to your quarters, but that night, your food is left untouched. You wait. Nothing happens. The next morning, your attendant tells you the accuser has been reassigned to an outer residence. Nothing is confirmed, nothing is written, but the warning is clear. Your status protects you. For now, you give birth several months later. A son. The announcement is made discreetly. A few gifts arrive. A few eunuchs bow lower than usual. The child is removed from your quarters and placed under the care of official wet nurses in the Palace of Eternal Spring, where children of imperial blood are raised. You're allowed to visit at set times. You see him only briefly, sleeping, wrapped in silk, watched over by guards and servants. You're not allowed to hold him for long. Still, the birth elevates your rank. You're granted the title of concubine of the 5th rank. One of many, but no longer among the lowest. You're expected to attend more formal events, dress with greater precision, and adhere to a new level of scrutiny. With elevation comes risk. The women who once ignored you now whisper when you enter a room. Some are polite, others aren't. One offers you a hairpin as a gift. You decline. Later, an attendant tells you it was rumored to be poisoned. The political atmosphere in the harem grows heavier. The emperor rarely visits now. His time is divided among dozens of women. Your position depends not on affection, but on perception, what others think your position might become. And in the palace, perception is often more dangerous than fact. A eunuch you've never seen before arrives with a message. The Empress Dowager wishes to speak with you again. When you arrive, she's seated beside a physician and a scribe. She doesn't raise her voice. She tells you another woman has accused you of cursing the emperor's health, a capital offense under imperial law, especially in times of illness or political instability. You're ordered to defend yourself. You deny the charge. Your voice is steady, but your mind races. You remember your son. You remember the girl who once vanished after a similar accusation. You remember the sealed gates and the locked rooms. The Empress Dowager watches you, unmoving. Then an attendant from your quarters arrives. She speaks clearly, stating that she witnessed another consort bribing a eunuch to place herbs in your room. She presents a letter taken from the eunuch, confirming the plot. The Empress Dowager reads the letter in silence. Then she gives a single command. The accuser is removed. She will not return. You're spared. But the lesson is permanent. From this point forward, you live carefully. You write nothing. You speak little. Your actions are deliberate, measured, filtered. You understand now that pregnancy wasn't your greatest trial. It was your entry into a new level of danger. You're no longer fighting for notice. You're now fighting to remain alive. The harem operates by silent codes and shifting loyalties. A favor earned today is forgotten tomorrow. An ally today could become your enemy by nightfall. The higher you rise, the more vulnerable you become. You begin to plan quietly, protecting your son, managing your servants, monitoring the movements of those around you. Your quarters are swept daily. Your meals are tested. You sleep lightly. You wake at every noise. There are no locks on your doors. No guarantees of safety. You're 16. You live in the wealthiest palace in the world. You eat from gilded bowls. You wear embroidered silk. But every step forward is shadowed by the threat of collapse. You're no longer unknown. And that may be the greatest risk of all. You're now 22 years old. In the Forbidden City, that means your youth is ending. The new girls arriving are 15, 16, their skin unblemished, their smiles untrained. They bow too deeply, speak too softly. They remind you of yourself 6 years ago, and you know exactly what they're here for. The Emperor has not summoned you in months. His attention has shifted. His health, once robust, now declines. He coughs behind screens, walks with assistants, and speaks less often in court. His household grows quieter. But his absence only sharpens the ambitions of those beneath him. Your son, now a toddler, still lives in the inner quarters for children. You visit when allowed. He doesn't always recognize you. You whisper songs you used to hum when he was an infant, hoping the sound still reaches some memory in him. But you see how the nurses control everything. His meals, his learning, his sleep schedule. You're his mother in name only. He lives under the Emperor's protection, and that makes him valuable. It also makes him vulnerable. The court is uneasy. Grain prices have risen. Rumours of plague swirl outside the walls. Inside, whispers of a coming purge return like smoke through silk. The Forbidden City has too many mouths, too many concubines who are no longer useful. Last time, over 100 women disappeared during a palace reduction. No official record was kept. No names were read. You feel it in the air again. Full sun away. Servants avoid eye contact. Eunuchs speak more quietly. Meals grow smaller. Water arrives later in the day. The palace is preparing for something, though no one says what. Then one night, it comes for you. A fourth-rank consort, once a rival, now a threat, accuses you of using witchcraft to harm the Emperor's health. Her evidence is a bundle of dried herbs planted beneath your bedding. You deny everything, but denial means nothing here. You're seized, dragged barefoot to the outer courtyard. The Emperor's mother waits beneath a canopy, her expression unreadable. A blade rests in the hands of the executioner beside her. She gives you a choice: confess or watch your son be taken down the same path. You kneel, hands bound, face to the dirt. Your throat is dry, you can barely breathe. You do not confess. Instead, you wait. And then, just before the sentence is spoken, your attendant appears. She carries a stolen letter. It reveals the plot. A eunuch, bribed by the pearl earring consort, had planted the herbs. The plan wasn't just to remove you, but to clear the path for her son. The Empress Dowager reads the letter in silence. She speaks only once. The consort is taken away. You never see her again. You're released. But the message is clear. Survival is not a victory. It's only a delay. You don't sleep that night. The next day, you arrange for your son to be smuggled out of the palace. A distant cousin's family in a rural province agrees to take him. It's illegal. It's dangerous. But it's the only chance he has to live beyond the walls that are closing in. You see him one last time before he's taken. You don't cry, you don't speak, you simply hold him until the attendant gently takes him from your arms. You watch him disappear into the shadowed corridor, and then you return to your quarters in silence. Weeks pass, then months. You cough often now. Your lungs burn at night. Your feet, long since bound and broken, are infected. The physicians visit the Emperor daily, but they don't come for women like you. You lie on a threadbare mat. The silk robes now thinned with age. The girls you once trained now train others. They still bow when they see you, but their eyes slide past you, already focused on their own ascent. You're 25 years old. Your name is known by few. Your body is failing. You're no longer useful to the Emperor, but you remain. And that, in this place, is a quiet rebellion. Because you've survived what most could not. You navigated the palace without a family name, without protection, and without losing the part of yourself that still remembers who you were before the gates closed. You raised a son, protected him, and sent him away from the very life that consumed you. Your breath grows shallower, the nights longer. One evening, the lamps outside your door aren't lit. The silence tells you what is coming. Your final thoughts are not of the palace, not of the Emperor, but of the boy whose name cannot be spoken aloud. You hope he forgets you. You hope he lives. Your last breath slips out without ceremony. No record will mark it. No inscription will carry your story. The palace continues, silk walls rustling, blades hidden in sleeves, new girls practicing their bows. But somewhere beyond the walls, your son walks on unbound feet. You were never just decoration. You were not a jewel in a crown. You were a body in a system built to consume you. But even within walls designed to erase, you resisted in silence. And somewhere, your legacy breathes. If this story stayed with you, don't leave in silence. Like the video. Leave a comment with your thoughts and subscribe to uncover more buried truths.